Hi. In this decision-making activity, we attend a public meeting held by the State Energy Commission to gather feedback about energy subsidies offered to utility providers and other strategies to reduce the use of fossil fuels. The meeting is being led by a scientist from the U.S. Department of Energy's Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. The first option to reduce the use of fossil fuels is to offer direct subsidies to alternative energy providers, thus reducing their operating cost. These payments and tax breaks will be accompanied by a mandate that the savings be passed on to the consumers as a lowering of their energy prices. The second option presented is to levy taxes on fossil fuel sales to counteract the market effects of increased demand and the consumption that usually follows fiscal policies lowering energy cost. This increase in cost caused by the raising of fuel taxes is supposed to act as a deterrent to the purchase of fossil fuels and thus promote the overall market selection of alternative energies. Additionally, the taxes collected will be used to reimburse the energy bills of businesses and consumers who use alternative energy sources. There's general opposition to both options from the citizens of the community. A petroleum factory worker thinks that they will be negatively affected by all of the options presented, as a transition to alternative energy that doesn't include a job plan for replacing the sector of workers in the petroleum industry is not socioeconomically sound or fair. And also, a resident of a low-income area thinks that all of the options are also detrimental to her quality of life and will only support options that lower her cost of living. Ultimately, when a decision of one or the other must be made, I choose to subsidize the providers of alternative energy to reduce the overall use of fossil fuels. And when the scientist recommends that additional measures will need to be taken, two different approaches are offered. The California model that focuses on cap and trade policy to mandate businesses and consumers purchase alternative energy, or the New York method, which uses policy to give direct incentives to businesses and consumers who voluntarily choose to purchase alternative energy. I personally think the New York method of using policy to provide direct incentives to consumers is the most beneficial for citizens and for the largest amount of people, while also providing economic support for the energy providers. And in closing, I think it's really interesting that the focus is on the overall reduction of aftermarket fossil fuel use, when really the largest amount of fossil fuels generated comes from the US military and industry. So all of these consumer regulations are ultimately just a tiny drop in the bucket and don't really address the overall root cause. And I think that we should all be considering higher order ways to reduce fossil fuels besides just the consumer.